So the first C is the constituents. The constituents are made up of you, the Institute of Ghana, and the leadership of Islam. You have to buy into the fact that, yes, we really are ready to imbibe AI and to adopt AI in our practices. The next C is the capabilities. Do you have the financial wherewithal to get a large language model or a small language model, or what it takes to bring AI into your system? Do you have trained personnel? AI is not computer science. AI is not computer science. Computer science is the vehicle on which AI runs, but the two of them are separate. As a matter of fact, for your association, most companies abroad in the non-hemisphere now have a C-suite for what we call Chief AI Officer, totally distinct from Chief Information Technology Officer, two separate offices. So you must also start considering how you advise your boards to have a Chief AI Officer. AI has changed the world, whether we like it or not. AI has revolutionized the world. We run an AI startup company called Gen AI in Nigeria and the rest of Africa. And I know that Africa is lagging behind in general AI. Yes, we have the youthful population that are doing ICT, that are using tech, but AI is a different phenomenon entirely. It is leading the world. It has led part of the world, the Northern Hemisphere, into the fourth industrial revolution. AI is like the discovery of electricity, the steam engine, and the internet. If you look at all the things that have developed over the years, it took radio about 38 years to get to 50 million people in the world. It took internet so many years to get to the rest of the world. Telephone, TV, but it took AI just 2 days to reach 50 million people. So that shows you the power and the influence that AI has. The next C is culture. Is your company, organization running a culture that allows the voices of people to be heard, for people to go to uncharted areas with guided risk management. Like you mentioned, risk is very, very key. Then compliance to regulatory authorities and conditions of operation within your industry. So those are the four C frameworks, and we have details here in the 4 Cs. I would not want to bore you with that, but I mean, we'll share this with the leadership for those of you who would like to have it as reference. Capabilities, culture, compliance. Now, I don't want to go into the technicality of artificial intelligence. It is very complex. It has to do with a lot of mathematics, a lot of linear regression, a lot of statistics. But I'll just give you a rough idea of the larger sphere of artificial intelligence. You have machine learning. Machine learning is simply where we feed data. Data is the new crude oil, is the new gold of the world, whether you like it or not. And not just junk data, but clean data and data that can be interrogated and data that will not hallucinate. When people get into trouble using AI, because AI hallucinates, AI also has what you call black box. Hallucination is like speaking with authority without knowledge. We call it BS, talking BS without knowledge. AI might not tell you that I don't know. It is possible best to prefer an answer, right or wrong. So you have people using ChatGPT. ChatGPT is only one of about 20 what we call large language models, LLMs. So there are different capacities. There are some that are O-level, there are some that are primary, there are some that are secondary, there are some that are masters, there are some that are PhD level. Even at the PhD level, you still need to have what we call human in the loop. So you have to be very, very careful of hallucination. Hallucination, for instance, is in Lekki, and I say I want to go to Surulere. Then the Uber that is using AI first takes me to Tinkan Island before getting his route to Yaba. It has hallucinated. It will tell you, yes, I'm taking you to Yaba, but it goes to Tinkan Island. So if you have human in the loop, the Uber driver will now change and start going towards Yaba. Then AI might now say, oh, yes, we have been trained in this data to head to Yaba through Third Mainland Bridge or through Echo Bridge, since I'm coming from Lekki. That's hallucination. But black box is totally different. Black box is ignorant. But totally ignorant. You put the Uber app and says, I'm going to Yaba from Lekki. It will say, yes, I'm taking you to Yaba. And it will end up telling you that Festac is your destination and drops you in Festac. So we have to be very, very mindful. I'm just using this as simple examples, but it can affect your work in law, in aviation, in healthcare, in arts, in science, in all walks of life. AI is everywhere. So deep learning is where we try to get the artificial intelligence brain, where we do a lot of calculus, we do a lot of algorithms that lead us to creating parameters and creating weights that will try to replicate the human brain. I tell you, for instance, AI has double polarity, one for good, one for evil. It depends on what the user of AI, the ethical and responsible use for AI. It's like a gun. A gun can be used for defense, for hunting, and it can be used to harm. Even marriages, for we Christians, we know that marriage was ordained by God for three reasons. When you go to a wedding, the pastor will read out why marriage was ordained. But a lot of people have ended up killing spouses in that holy matrimony. So AI itself is not evil, but the user of AI is what is evil. So we have two mantras in Gen AI learning concepts. One mantra is AI or die. The death is not physical death. It's the kind of death that BlackBerry, Nokia, and those companies, Kodak, who refuse to evolve and know that this is the time to change, to evolve, to imbibe new things. You see a lot of people dwelling on the negative side of AI. And I just switch off and tell them, listen, if I have the time or the patience, I'll explain to them. But if I don't have the time and the patience, I just walk away from them. But distinguished ladies and gentlemen, AI has enormous good. I'll give you a few examples before we move on. In Africa, in Nigeria, I am Igbo. I have very strong Yoruba affiliation. My wife is Yoruba. My mother was Sierra Leonean Yoruba. We call an ailment that afflicts only Black people. In Yoruba, we call it Abiku. In Igbo, we call it Obanje. For years, Black people have been dying of sickle cell anemia. They go to witch doctor. Wole Soyinka wrote a poem, Abiku. John Pepper Clark wrote a poem, Abiku. Only recently did we use AI to find out that Abiku is nothing but sickle cell anemia, where 25% might have SS and 25% might have AS. But they go to Babalawo or Mamalawo and give all kinds of concoction, all kinds of tribal marks to stop Abiku from coming and going. But if the probability is 25% of Abiku, then there is nothing you can do about it. So on the National Health Services in the UK, there are medication, I'm not talking about bone marrow transplant, medication that has solved Abiku. On the 21st of October last year, the Moorfield Eye Clinic was able to restore sight to blind people by what we call brain-computer interface, whereby chips are put in your brain and wired through your optic nerves for blind people to regain their sight. It is still ongoing. On that day, 4 people regained their sight in Moorfield Hospital in London. And when we speak in AI classes, in Oxford or wherever we go in Cambridge to lecture students on AI, the good thing about the world is we tell students, bring out your LLM, your ChatGPT, your Grok, your Cloud, or whatever it is, and always cross-check what the lecturer is saying. If the lecturer is giving you BS, you can always point it out and challenge it. Good. Also, for predictive analytics, we have an LLM that can predict 130 diseases called Sleep FM. Sleep, like sleeping. FM, like frequency modulation. Sleep FM, you can check it out. 130 diseases while you're asleep. Then, the interesting one, my late mother's name was Sybil. 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 We didn't know the meaning of the name Sybil until AI discovered a predictive medical diagnostic that can diagnose the likelihood of someone getting lung cancer in 8 years' time. They call this Sybil. And on my investigation, Sybil is the Greek god of prediction. So there are also other LLMs that can predict one getting any form of cancer, pancreatic cancer, breast cancer in 10 years' time. Therefore, lifestyle medication and stuff like that can be put in place. So we can get this slide and read further. So I talked about human in the loop. This is a quadrant. For AI, it's best not to have small AI, large human, all AI, no, or AI, half AI, 1/4 human, 1/4 AI. The best combination to get the best out of AI is human plus AI, the one top right, the quadrant top right. What has really changed? AI, from human judgment to machine influence judgment, AI is not just an IT system. It's a decision influencing technology. Today, AI systems they screen job applicants, flag suspicion transactions, recommend credit approvals, etc., etc. So for want of time, we have to speed up this presentation because I don't know how many minutes that I have. You cannot outsource accountability. That is the job of Islam. You cannot outsource accountability. Board members and management cannot, they are held accountable by the regulatory authorities. If an AI system discriminates, misallocates capital, or exposes the organization to regulatory sanction, the board is responsible. AI has therefore shifted governance from human oversight to machine oversight of systems that influence people. So let me also let you understand the depth of artificial intelligence. The 10 most capitalized companies in the world, that is the richest companies, dollar terms, apart from Saudi Aramco, all of them are all AI technology companies. The 10 largest companies in the world, apart from Saudi Aramco, the 9 others are all AI tech companies, leading by NVIDIA. NVIDIA makes chips for AI companies. Then you have Microsoft. Then you have Google. Then you have Alphabet. Then you have Tencent of China. You have Alibaba. They are all AI companies. NVIDIA, on the 29th of October, had closed market cap $5 trillion. And the entire GDP of 54 African nations put together is $3.3 trillion. Let that resonate and sink into our minds. Why you cannot compare GDP directly to market capitalization, because market capitalization captures just 1 day of the stock market. where GDP is the gross domestic product for the whole year. But it gives you an idea of the extent of AI. AI definitely will cause job losses. In Germany, you have AI preachers. Pastors are probably endangered. Accountants are endangered. Consultants are endangered. On June 28, 2025, I was born in the 90s, so I'm used to 1990 something. So you see, you have an article was posted in The Economist that says, the title was, "Who Needs Accenture in the Age of AI?" Accenture representing KPMG, Boston Consultant Group, etc. That who needs them? Because you can now prompt. What a new area of AI is what we call prompt engineering. So if you lose your job, if you are an account, I'm not being an alarmist, because my first degree was in zoology. I studied animal sciences. Then I went into banking, did an MBA. Then I was a senior academic fellow. Then AI started, the buzzword in Oxford University, Cambridge, all over the world was AI. Then I pivoted and did a postgraduate in AI, which leads me to the saying of the gentleman, the American, Alvin Toffler, who said the illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. So what I'm saying to you, I'm not fear-mongering. I'm saying that you can pivot and learn AI as an additional skill to whatever you are doing, to your risk management, to your banking, to your law, to your communication. Of course, the telcos need AI like vampire needs blood. So the MTNs of this world and the rest of them. So we'll now go to the strategic use cases of AI and the future of work. In agriculture, AI is used to maximize yield, to know your soil content, to know what the right fertilizer mix to use, and if fertilizer is needed or not needed, etc. And you can maximize the land space. For southern Nigeria, where we don't have enough land, we can now use AI to determine the number of crop we can put. Consulting, I've mentioned consulting. Healthcare and drug discovery, I've mentioned that. Government, ministry, departments, and agencies. The greatest place of corruption in Nigeria is procurement. We have a PPP, Bureau of Public Procurement, but they don't use them, or they sidetrack it. When you arrive at Nigeria airport, after you've gone through scanners, you see customs and immigration harassing you, which you carry. If you have robots will not ask you for money. They just do their job and they go, and you go your way. Education, we use AI, and we have the ethical issue in most universities. Is AI allowed? I can tell you about the policy in Oxford. Oxford will tell you to declare the use of AI. And the interesting thing, I read a lot of articles in Nigeria today. All of a sudden, everybody's a journalist. Some of us have been writing since 1980s, 1970s when I was in secondary school, and 1980s in university. When I was working, I've been writing. So consistently, I've been a writer on contemporary issues, on science, on economics. All of a sudden, you see people who never wrote any article, join that articles. And I have an app that will tell me whether I use AI to write your article or to write anything. I'm not trying to push anybody down, but you must try and say, okay, fine. You must prompt AI, you must have a knowledge. From my molecular biology, zoology background, I will prompt better than your president, Mrs. Joyce Opana, for instance, because her field is not biology. I can talk about the double helical structure of DNA because I'm a zoologist, and she can talk more about her field. And the economists will talk more about the economy. So our prompt will be different. Declare that you use AI. To what extent? There are certain percentages that you cannot, that is not allowed for you to go. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We also now created a WhatsApp, an AI app that will say, let it be humanized, that a human wrote this, not AI. So lecturers, professors probably don't know. But now, we have now created another app that will override that one that will say, show me that this writing and this assessment by this student was dehumanized to make it look as if, to humanize it, sorry, to make it seem. So the whole AI race is just beginning. We haven't seen the end. We are just at the periphery of AI. And if any of you is interested or know anything about cosmology, the universe, there's some phenomenon we call black hole. Black hole is something that has defined humanity since the creation of the world. Some spiritualists used to say black holes are probably the dwelling place of God because nothing can get into it. No spacecraft gets into black hole. Nothing. It has no light. It is anything. Nothing goes into it. It's different from the Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle has also, we understand Bermuda Triangle more with AI now. But the one that is intriguing is the black hole. You have billions of black holes and so many universes. So this our own solar system with 6 planets is a child's play compared to the greatness, the magnitude of this God that we said. It is, if you go to cosmology, by 2019, that was the first time since creation that AI was able to take a photograph of a few black holes. If you listen to my lecture and you don't take anything out of it, then I haven't done justice. So you might take note and research more on black holes. You can reach me later. We discuss more about the cosmos, the wonders of God, and where our planet is going to. So we are so minuscule when we think we are very important in the entire creation of this Almighty God. In the military, Ukraine is a tiny country that Russia would have crushed within 1 week. But that war, we have defined that war in the AI world as algorithm war. AI has played a major role to support Ukraine. That war can continue for long. Russia has serious armament, holding this armament, like the Second World War. You had kamikaze. Young men, young women would take a fighter jet and run into the target suicidal. They give them sort of honor in Japan before they go on bombing expedition. But guess what now? Drones. They are called unmanned unmanned avionics. I'll remember the name now. But they use them, but they are called drones. I was trying to get the scientific name. Unmanned aerial systems. Yeah, APS. And the US in 2024 created a university in Oklahoma purely to study and create drones. While the US is way ahead of every country, but China has the capacity to build infrastructure. AI runs on serious electricity. One data center, the type that MTN has built, the Civiso Labengua 3-tier data center, huge resource, huge electricity, and huge water to cool it. A typical tier 3 data center would require about 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts of power. Our entire national grid in Nigeria is at best did 6,000 megawatts. So I've talked about military, telecom, I've talked on it very briefly. The ethical question governance cannot avoid as part of your 3 pillars of your governance. Governance practitioners like yourself have always been custodians of ethics long before AI. But AI introduces new ethical tensions, bias hidden in training data. Because all our data are trained outside of Nigeria, there's a bias against Black people. There's a bias against gender, because it was developed mainly by white male. Decisions that cannot be fully explained. These decisions come out from hallucination and black box. Speed that outpaces human review. Like I told you, AI is at scale and at speed. Automation that quietly displaces jobs. I talked about job displacement. The danger is not that AI is unethical. The danger is that ethics becomes invincible. A governance failure today might not look like corruption. It may look like a perfectly efficient system, efficient in inverted comma, producing unfair outcomes. A compliant process delivering unjust results. The ethical task of governance practitioners is therefore evolving from ensuring compliance with rules to ensure alignment with values. Boards must now ask, what value are embedded in our AI system? Who designed them? What data trained them? Who can challenge their outputs? Ethics is no longer a soft issue. It is a risk management imperative. Our second mantra in Gen AI, apart from AI or die, where companies that do not innovate and change will die, not physical death, but relevance death. The other one mantra is AI is not a girl, but AI is beautiful. The beauty of AI is the positive use cases of AI. So we are launching officially in our company. I will send our invitation for Zoom only for some of your members who will be interested on the 26th of February to join us by Zoom to hear details of our AI capabilities. Risk in the age of AI, apart from ethics, why traditional risk frameworks are no longer enough. Governance practitioners are fluent in risk, but AI introduces new categories of risk that many frameworks do not fully capture. One, algorithm risk. Two, regulatory risk. Reputational risk. Operational risk. What this means for governance practitioners, you are no longer just record keepers, compliance managers, interpreters of statutes. You are becoming translators between technology and the board, guardians of ethical deployment, early warning systems for emerging risks. In practical terms, governance practitioners must now insist on AI literacy at the board level, ensure AI systems are included in risk registers, demand explainability, not just performance, embed AI governance into charters, policies, and committee mandates. Let me pause a bit and now say, when you open up social media, you see all sorts of people advertising we do AI training. People who have gone on 1 week course, 2-week course, 3-week course, and come out and say they are AI experts. Be wary of them. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, what you owe your companies, the boards you sit on, is can we have the bio of these people? Like Temitope asked me for my bio, maybe to now introduce me. But the essence would be to know the qualification. Would you go to a doctor that trained for just 1 year to perform an operation on you? Or would you go to a lawyer who just did 1 or 2 weeks course? So we advocated in Oxford University that there must be a body, a regulatory body that monitors AI practitioners. In Nigeria, you have proliferation of all them. We are AI experts. What makes you an expert? AI. Any mistake that is grounded out of malfunction of algorithm can wipe away an entire company in no time. The speed at which AI creates value to destruction of value. The future of governance practice for rule-based governance to judgment-based governance. AI is focusing governance back to its philosophical roots. Rules alone will not be enough. Checklists will not save us. Compliance without understanding will fail. The future governance practitioners must cultivate curiosity, not fear, judgment, not blind reliance, courage to ask uncomfortable questions. Boards will increasingly look to governance professionals not just for what is allowed, but for what is wise. This is a return to first principle, not remove the need for governance. It makes good governance indispensable. Summary and Q&A. There is no Nigerian way of doing and there is responsibility. In the age of AI, the proper way demands understanding before adoption, ethics before efficiency, governance before automation. If governance practitioners rise to this moment, AI will be a tool of progress. If we abdicate our responsibility, it will become a source of regret. The future of governance is not digital, it is human, informed, and courageous. Ladies and gentlemen, I will show you something now that there is no Nigerian way of doing governance. Can you show what I'm showing you? Can you read it? Can someone answer, please?
Yes, sir. There's no Nigerian way of flying a Boeing 747. This established fact presupposes, therefore, that there is no Nigerian way of doing anything. There is only the proper way. Absolutely.
This I did in 1990 when you still had 747. So it was the 8, would have been 747 anymore. So the leadership of Isan, it's been my pleasure speaking with you. So I'll leave this to the moderator to handle the next session as she deemed fit. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speaking with you. If you need further lectures and further training on AI, AI Learning Concept Limited.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eroche, for that very power-packed and insightful. I mean, my notebook is full, and I'm sure so many others have full notebooks as well. And like you've advised, yeah, this is just a tip, and definitely I believe we'll go deeper. You said the AI is not a girl. I think AI is a girl. That's why AI is beautiful.
I like
yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Before we dive deep into our discussion, I want to recognize some esteemed President, Ms. Fumi Ekundayo, FCIS. Thank you for joining us. Past President Bode Ayeko, FCIS. Thank you so much, sir, for joining as well. Mr. Babatunde Pele with us. We also do have Mrs. Benedicta Shadare, FCIS, a council member as well. Mr. Dele Chokunde, FCIS, another council member. Mrs. Nkechi Onyeso, FCIS, a council member as well. Mr. Oluseyi Abiodun, FCIS, a council member and also the chairman of the Kaduna State chapter. We also have Ms. Efosa Ewere, FCIS, the chairman of our Lagos chapter. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I believe, colleagues, that the interventions and insights provided by Mr. Eroche have been very spot on. I believe that was a very compelling presentation. And in the course of the presentation, I believe we've been reminded that AI is not just another IT system, technology, and it's also operating within governance parameters. So we need to be very on top of our game. It's AI or death, and I believe we want to evolve. Just like our keynote speaker has evolved from being a zoologist to a banker to now an AI expert. I believe life is all about learning, and he has evidenced that in his own professional journey and indeed in the course of today's presentation. So to explore our conversation further, we have distinguished discussants who are joining us, and I would start by introducing our first discussant, Mrs. Ayotola Jagun, who is the Executive Director and Chief Corporate Services and Sustainability Officer at Wando PLC, where she oversees enterprise risk management, strategic procurement, and sustainability across the group. She's a former Chief Compliance Officer and Company Secretary for over 30 years, where she led institutionalization of governance, ethics, and compliance frameworks across complex international operations. She's a dual qualified lawyer in Nigeria and England and Wales, and brings over 3 decades of cross jurisdictional experience in corporate governance, regulatory compliance, enterprise risk, and board advisory. She's a fellow of the Institute and also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Directors, and she has contributed in shaping Nigeria's governance architecture, including co-leading the development of corporate governance guidelines for MSMEs and the corporate governance code for non-profit sector. Please let's welcome her. You can have your virtual claps. That's very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next discussant is Mrs. Celine Okoroma Vincent, who is an interdisciplinary professional at the intersection of law, corporate governance, and training. An ICSAN licensed chartered governance professional and immediate past chairman of ICSAN River State chapter. She pioneered digital innovations that boosted membership engagement by 54% during her tenure. In 2024, she was named the most creative trainer of the year by NITAD for her board level and C-suite training on governance, ESG, and meeting management. She also facilitates CPD courses for SCGN and ICSAN. In 2005, Celine won the UK Essex Startup Business Grant to build an AI-powered CPD platform. She currently heads governance and trainings at Paraclet Legal Consulting and also holds an LLM in corporate governance from University of Bristol. She mentors aspiring governance professionals through her online community, guiding them from ICSAN studentship to membership. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Celine.
Thank you, Joycey. Thank you.
And last but not the least, they call him the Balogun here now. We have Bankole Falade, who is a senior regulatory and public policy leader with over 20 years experience spanning fintech, telecoms, and digital economy across Africa and international markets. His work focuses on shaping regulatory environments that enable innovation, competition, and sustainable growth. He has led complex multi-jurisdictional licensing, compliance, and policy engagements across payments, cross-border financial services, telecommunications, data protection, blockchain policy, and open banking. Bankole has led leadership roles at MTN Nigeria, Visa West Africa, IHS Towers, and Flutterwave. Consistently, he's been supporting market expansion through strategic, legal, and regulatory advocacy. Bankole is actively involved in bilateral and multilateral policy engagement, and he has served on the US-Nigeria Commercial and Investment Dialogue, and currently sits on the US-Nigeria Commercial and Investment Partnership, contributing to policy work on digital trade, infrastructure, and regulatory harmonization. He also has served on Nigeria's National Blockchain Policy Steering Committee and advised Central Bank on fintech payments, domestic card schemes, and data privacy. He's also a fellow of ICSAN and the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He's a strong advocate for governance and institutional development. Let's welcome Bankole as well. And thank you for joining us this morning and being the only man in the midst of ladies as we dig into our discussions. So I'll kick off from the enterprise risk and accountability perspective. So I'll pose this question to Ayotola. Key things: are boards in Nigeria truly treating AI as a governance enterprise risk issue? And when AI systems cause harm, who is ultimately accountable? Have organizations embedded AI into their risk registers and ESG frameworks, or do you think we're waiting for a first major shock?
Thank you very much, Joyce. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think the discussions are definitely taking place in our boardrooms. Directors are definitely, it's on the agenda, if I should say it is on the agenda, but it's on the agenda from an innovation point of view. It's on the agenda from a kind of technological innovation point of view. There's also this kind of FOMO, fear of missing out, because there's so much hype around AI. That I believe that, a lot of directors, if they've not been trained or received any training at all, are almost wanting to ensure that management is on top of things, keeping up with the times, and that we end up not losing out. So I think that directors are aware that they are talking about it, but not with the kind of depth and not with the kind of seriousness that it requires, the kind of judgment, the kind of judgment and depth that it requires. And I'll tell you why. Dr. Roche mentioned something about the amount of water that's needed to run a data center, the amount of power that's needed to run a data center. So for a company or a board who, as part of their core business, are going to have to set up data centers like the major banks, they have to look at, first of all, things like location and whether putting a data center in that particular spot is going to have an impact on agriculture, right? And so these are issues to deal with the communities in the areas where the data centers are. In a nation where we can hardly produce enough electricity for our basic needs, the ethics of having loads of data centers or opening up the country to loads of data centers and using water supplies that are needed for agriculture is another consideration, right? That we need to seriously think about as directors. And these are discussions or determinations, I should say, judgment calls that AI cannot really make for you, and that we have to make as human beings and live by those decisions. And so if, for instance, in making certain decisions regarding where we want to put our data centers, how we want to run our health interventions using AI, end up causing harm, the directors are ultimately responsible. We have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we act in the best interests of our stakeholders, the best interests of the company. So I think that certainly while discussions are being held regarding AI. It's more the benefits of AI, the innovation that can come from AI, the efficiency of AI, as opposed to sitting down and really looking at the risks. Something that Dr. Eroche didn't really delve into so much, and I know, excellent paper, Dr. Eroche, is the issue of deep fakes and misinformation and disinformation that can come about as a result of AI being subverted in terms of its use. I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, we had something very, very similar as a company, where we were accused of having a refinery in Malta, and it was all misinformation, disinformation. The fact that you can use AI to prove something that is completely false is something that we need to pay attention to because of the impact on the reputation of the company. So again, when it comes to reputational risks, we have an issue of AI now exacerbating those reputational risks. It looks so real. You could have your CEO basically coming out, you can have your CEO being presented as saying something, and meanwhile it is not him at all. In fact, there was something recently, we've seen examples recently where influential people have had to come out and say, this is not me. I don't know anything about this. People have joined together various aspects of my social media talks and are offering services that apparently are from me and asking people for money, and it's not me at all. And so the use of AI is very, very key. And our understanding of the damage that can be done is very, very important. And so I think it's something that from an enterprise risk management perspective needs to be factored in. Now, the reason why I guess it's not really being done at the moment is, like Dr. Eroche says, that AI risks they're implied, they're not explicit, right? So they're embedded in other risks, right? So it's really the key thing is for us to be able to delve into these other activities within the organization and ensure that we're capturing everywhere that AI is being used, that we're capturing its use and we're making sure that the company is protected. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm most concerned about. We have Gen Zs who we bring into the company and they're so used to using these tools to get work done and to get work done really quickly. And I'm thinking, what are you putting in your prompts about the company? How much of what you are putting in your prompts is confidential information about the company that you don't want to be in the public domain? It's really, really key, because once you put it, once it's out there, somebody else can prompt, even using the name of the company, and get information that they're not supposed to have access to. And so it's important that there is a policy within the company, and directors ensure that there are policies within the company that determine what you can use AI tools for, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, and what you can't use it for. It's so key, because otherwise we end up as employees exposing our company in a way that we never intended to, just in terms of wanting to be efficient. So who is ultimately responsible? The directors are ultimately responsible. You can't, like Dr. Eroche says, it's not something you can outsource. You cannot outsource your fiduciary duties. You cannot outsource your responsibilities. Ultimately, we do want the positives of what AI affords us, but there have to be parameters around it. There has to be the governance of AI has to be in place. And while we're waiting for the regulators to catch up, we owe it to ourselves to ensure that we put things in place to protect ourselves as directors and to also protect the company. And this is where the role of the governance professional or practitioner comes in, because you have to advise your board that, yes, it's great, AI is fantastic, and we do not want to miss out. However, it is really important to understand the risks not just from things like algorithm bias, but the real risk for me, like I see, is the information that's going out there about your company that really shouldn't be going out there, the numbers you're crunching online that nobody should have access to, the also being able to ensure that from a reputational point of view, you already have mitigants in place to deal with fake news, to deal with deep fakes, to deal with just negative press, that those things are out there as well. And then from the ESG perspective, the environment, social, and governance perspective, that we're not making decisions that we feel may favor our company, but at the end of the day end up negatively impacting on our communities, and then creating more problems for us from a license to operate perspective, especially when it comes to these data centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I was too caught up. My mic is even refusing to unmute. Thank you for sharing those very deep insights. And the key things is really, are we ready to make the judgment calls, and how hands-on are we? And of course, it's a tall order, given the responsibilities of board members. And it's important that at this stage, everyone just, gets up and doing in taking necessary steps. Moving on to governance practice and institutional readiness, Celine, do you think governance professionals are truly equipped to interrogate AI systems, or are we at risk of approving what we do not fully understand? And drawing from your experience as our digital chairman, what lessons about resistance to digital transformation should help shape how we approach adoption of AI, particularly when we're looking at designing board level AI governance training and possibly even leading self regulation ahead of formal regulation?
Thank you so much, Joyce. That's a very, very interesting question. I would attempt to ensure that I address every part, but the truth is, we have to tell ourselves the truth. As governance professionals, we're not all at the same level of maturity when it comes to AI literacy. So we have over 300 participants on this call, and let's just pretend we are on a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game show and use the Ask the Audience function. So I'll invite everybody who is on this call, meet me in the chat room, and let's do this data collection together. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being you're not confident or equipped to interrogate AI systems, and 5 being you're very confident and equipped to interrogate AI systems, how would you rate yourself? Okay, so the responses would be 1, and don't just say 1. We're going to adopt the comply and explain. As governance professionals, we're used to comply and explain. So when you say 1, tell me why you feel you're not confident. Are the jargons too much? Or are you still in a place where you're a bit averse to what AI does? And if it is a 5 for you, tell us why. Maybe you've undergone a lot of training and you feel like you're at a place where you are very confident to make those decisions. So it would be interesting for us to really gather data in a forum like this to see where we are in terms of our AI maturity level for as governance professionals. But while we're doing that, I'm going to come back to look at the responses. But let's go ahead now to look at the other part of the question, which really asks to really determine whether we're at risk of, approving things that we don't really understand. That's a very important question because Mr. Ruche had highlighted something that is critical, which is the concept of black box approvals. So black box approvals is when we approve things that we don't really understand. And in the age of AI, explainability is the new transparency. If you can't explain something, it is almost impossible for you to be able to say you can give a confident decision on that particular AI system. And the reality is that in as much as Mrs. Ayotola had alluded to the fact that setting up data centers has risks, we are still having AI systems deployed in our organizations that are vendor-driven. So we still have vendors who are helping us implement these AI systems. And these vendor-driven AI systems could come in the form of software upgrades. So these software upgrades will implement some form of AI systems that we're not even labeling as AI tools. And then there's no framework to actually check what these AI systems are doing. And at the end of the day, we fall into that box of black box approvals because we are proving things that we cannot govern. We are proving things that we have not really labeled as AI systems. We're not interrogating what this AI does, who it affects, how the system is controlled. So that really puts us in a class where we are most likely unable to actually interrogate the AI system because we don't really understand what they are. They're probably loaded in jargons that we are a bit wary or afraid to interrogate for the fear of looking ignorant. But what I would recommend is, the truth is, if we listen to all that we've heard so far, there'll probably be that aversion of, oh, maybe I need to become an AI expert, or I need to become very proficient in data science, or I need to learn how to code. But what we need to do as governance professionals, AI literacy is progressive. So the most baseline AI literacy we need to have at this stage is to first have an understanding of what these AI systems actually do. So beyond the why, because usually AI systems are projected from the point of what it will do for the organizations, but ask questions. These things we are approving, what do they do? Beyond asking what it does, find out the risk factors, the risks such as bias, privacy issues, operational issues. It's important to ask those kinds of questions so that we are sure about the extent of impact that the risks that these AI systems will develop in the event of things going wrong. Now, what I would typically recommend from a training perspective is this. Every board and the company secretariat should have a bare minimum AI literacy. And that can be implemented in the form of short focus workshops that really give us the basics of what AI does. And this is not AI just for all industries. If you listen to Mr. Roche's presentation, you see that AI is deployed sector by sector, and the same AI that will impact your sector wouldn't be the same for others. So you have to have AI literacy that is tailored to your particular sector. And beyond just having an understanding of the AI use cases for your sector, understand the key risk factors. What are the biases? What are the privacy issues? Okay. And beyond just approaching AI literacy from a theory perspective, it is shown that case-based learning is very effective for understanding what AI does. So a case-based learning really requires you taking a particular AI that has been deployed in your organization and tone it down, unpack the data, unpack the logic, unpack the risks, unpack the controls that are in place in that AI system deployed in your sector. That way you have an understanding of basic AI literacy that is tailored to the particular industry that you serve. Now, I want to progress now to have share a little bit about what happens when it comes to deploying some of this AI based on my experience, as Joyce had asked. The truth is, when it comes to digital transformation, a lot of people will think that the challenge is actually as regards the technology itself. But what I've seen is that the technology usually isn't the problem. We'd find that there is usually resistance that is not related to technology, but resistance that comes from people and culture. And this resistance is influenced by what I would call several fears. Okay? So these fears would come from employees who are afraid of replacements. These fears will also come from the executives who are afraid of exposure. These fears will also come from boards who are afraid of reputational risks. So the critical lesson I have seen in the course of deployment of digital transformation is that people are not resisting technology per se, but they are resisting uncertainty. And this uncertainty drives the fears that actually now you find out that the technology deployment becomes almost like a barrier because we're not really communicating effectively to allay those fears, okay? So uncertainty thrives where there is breach in communication, where there is no clarity or there is no fluency in what this particular technology will do in the organization. Now, for every digital transformation initiative, it's important to actually anticipate resistance because it's inevitable. For every change management process, resistance is inevitable. But when you don't develop technology with the idea that resistance is potential, then you find that there would be challenges that you wouldn't be able to manage. So you should ask questions when you're deploying new AI tools. Ask questions like, why will people resist this AI change? And why do they have a right to be worried? So when you ask these questions, it also gives you responses that helps you to tailor the communication strategy, the training strategy, the redeployment strategy in a way that those fears are allayed, communication is effective, and people begin to see that this technology deployment is actually not going to replace people or expose their inefficiency, but it will actually help them to do their work processes simpler. So that way, once you're able to anticipate resistance and intentionally tailor responses to that resistance into your AI deployment strategy, it is a lot easier for AI adoption or technology transformation to be smoother. Now let's progress further into what we need to do in terms of having a practical AI training for board level members and even organization. There are several things that should actually cover a basic baseline AI literacy training for board members and governance professionals. One of it is the fact that we have to lead with really projecting the strategic impacts, okay, of that AI system for the business. So explain the why in business terms. What will it do? Will it offer better customer service outcomes? Will it help processes become faster? Will it improve compliance? Okay. And then AI training also has to be very, very practical. The problem we have is that a lot of the AI trainings we have are very theoretical. We don't really break it down to provide scenario-based systems. We don't really tailor it down to the governance responsibilities that are existing in these organizations. So it's important for us to clearly have also demos and scenarios that help us see clearly what is this AI going to do. Have demo sessions with these board members for them to use these AI tools practically. And then it helps deployments and effective use become more seamless. And of course, with understanding, the fear of technology transformation becomes reduced. The other thing that Ms. Ayotola highlighted, which is so important, is that the AI training has to effectively highlight those risk types and controls, okay? So risks related to bias, data protection, disclosure, cyber security, third-party information disclosure, or data leaks. We have to ensure that we have communications. AI training should cover all the risk factors and the effective control systems that have to be in place. And it is important to also highlight, have a bit of crisis simulation in that AI training. What happens when things go wrong tomorrow? Because if you do a bit of scenario planning when it comes to crisis management of AI defects, it becomes easier for you to anticipate potential risks, potential crises, and have an effective system for managing those risks. I want to also highlight the role that governance professionals actually play in trying to ensure that we are positioned to be drivers of the conversations of AI governance. Mr. Tony Okoma, in his opening comments, actually alluded to the fact, which I can confirm, that in the UK currently, they have an AI governance playbook, which basically provides modules. It provides guardrails for board members and governance professionals to be able to deploy AI and to use it effectively in the organizational structure. So it is tailored to use of AI for governance professionals in several sectors in the spectrum that governance professionals work in. These are the kinds of things that a professional body like ICSAN should be looking at as well. We need to start to think about setting up systems and guidance for self-regulation. Because if you would realize, every new governance role for financial sectors, for even data protection, is always reactive. Governance regulation is usually reactive. When there were corporate failures, there was a need for us to have corporate governance codes. When there were data protection failures, there was a need for us to have data protection policies. It's important for us to not wait till there is an AI failure before we start to think about AI regulation. We should start to position strategically to set up modules, set up policy frameworks that give us that guidance to start helping members transition from self-regulation till there's eventual regulation. That way, we will not be overwhelmed by potential risks that have become very apparent we have now positioned to self-regulate, and we are prepared to even provide the framework for regulators to even build on. Because if ICSAN as an institute start to position to develop these models, we effectively provide a framework for eventual regulation, and we become the drivers of AI regulation when it eventually becomes mainstream. The other thing I would also say is for ICSAN to start to provide networks where there is peer learning for AI. Okay, so I know that there is an existing system for the sectoral community structures. I'm not sure if there is a technology committee or there's any committee that is tailored to actually have conversations about AI, but it's important. You realize that we thrive when we learn from peers. There's always that comedian for peer learning. So ICSAN should also drive that space where governance professionals can learn from one another through the existing sectoral committee structure that we already have. I'm not sure. I think I may have covered the field of the questions. I hope I have. If I haven't, please just call my attention to any part I haven't spoken to.
I mean, you have pretty much covered, and it is a lot. It also highlights the fact that, there's still a lot that we have to do. It's sometimes, we are averse to new initiatives or new ideas. Like you said, there's the fear of AI can come and replace my job, but I mean, if we do not embrace the change, like Mr. Iruchi had said, we need to be very deliberate and intentional about evolving and learning new things. And they always say you stop learning when you die. This is the challenge for a lot of us now. We need to embrace AI. There are just a few fives from the poll, and I saw a lot of 1 and 2. That just shows that we also need to step up our game, and not run away from what has become reality. And the key thing is it's important that we are not reactive, but rather we are proactive. And that's how I'll now move into Bankole, looking at regulatory and policy architecture. Bankole, would you say Nigeria in regulating AI is proactive or reactive? And how do we strike the balance between meaningful oversight and enabling innovation, given that AI systems are global, data is cross-border, and liability remains local? How should boards navigate the tension? And what is the single biggest regulatory blind spot that a lot of African or Nigerian boards should be worried about?
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having me. And a very loaded question, I must say, Joyce, but I will do my best. So, in terms of Nigeria, I mean, are we proactive or reactive? I would say we're somewhere in the middle, maybe a bit slow to the game, but I think we're somewhere in the middle. So we're not starting from zero as Nigeria, because today, currently, most of the inputs and consequences of AI are being regulated through some existing regimes. So either from data protection, consumer protection, in the financial services industry, cybersecurity, telecom services, etc. You already have rules or regulators in that particular space trying to do something to regulate AI. And this is like reality for emerging technology generally. What you find is that when there's a new technology, the regulators or policymakers would govern that technology using existing tools while they learn, understand, and develop specific regulations for the new technology as it emerges. I think the concern I would say is that the speed of adoption of AI is really great. I think the keynote speaker today mentioned how quickly, AI was adopted. I think we got to 50 million users in like blink of an eye. And so I think that's a risk. And if we do not do something, then what will happen is that AI adoption would outpace the specificity of the rules that we have in place today. And so what that kind of raises as a flag is that the real risk really is about governance. It's not really about absence of regulation. If you ask me about, how do we strike that balance between oversight and innovation in Nigeria, I think the best way probably would be through some sort of risk-based regulatory framework. And risk-based, also what I'll call a use case-based regulation framework or regulatory framework, rather than just focusing on AI itself and saying, oh, I want to regulate the technology. Can we focus on, look, the risk-based and use cases? So, for example, low-risk use cases, maybe you can have light touch regulatory frameworks like disclosures and introduce a couple of basic controls, but high-risk use cases that might affect things like our credit, our financial services, our identity, health, security, safety, then you may want to build governance, or not you may want to, we should build stronger governance frameworks. We should look at things like impact assessments and, create an accountability chain, auditability, incident reporting. So we learn from it and, make sure that while we regulate, what we're regulating really is the outcome and the risk that comes with the technology and not necessarily the technology. Again, I think, as you mentioned, AI is global, it's cross-border, but liability remains local. So it's very important for governance practitioners as well, because, boards would always be the ones that will assume that liability. You can't say as a board that, oh, my vendor is global, which is the case really. As most companies across multiple segments today, we use tools, we use vendors that provide services across multiple jurisdictions, not necessarily domiciled or local to Nigeria. So the question really is for the boards, what we should be focusing on is what are the controls we have put in place? Are we able to audit these tools? Do we understand, what the tools we're using? Are we able to map and classify the use cases for our business? Do we have a vendor governance practice in place? So when you're onboarding vendors, your procurement department or your IT department, whoever is responsible, what are they looking at? Are they checking their governance practices? What data would we expose to these vendors? How would they use that? In some cases, because they are global, this data might be transferred. Most cases will be transferred across jurisdictions. So how are they managing that? What's the discipline for, what jurisdictions are this, will this information go to? And also what sort of assurances are we getting, both from a legal regulatory framework in the contracts that you signed and all of that. So I think that's extremely important for boards and governance practitioners, as we advise boards in various capacities, or we sit on boards in various capacities. What are we able to, do to ensure that we understand really that, yes, the tools may be global, but responsibility will be local, and the buck will start and sit with the board. So what are we doing to ensure that, we're able to manage those processes, carefully? I think, again, there was a question around possible blind spots for boards. I would say, again, it comes back to the supply chain question and dependency on third parties, who we may not have full feasibility or the ability to audit them. So how do we manage that? How do you manage that as a board? When something goes wrong, regulators would, and even customers won't assume or accept that, oh, it was your vendor. The liability, the reputational harm, even remediation costs in many cases will remain with your organization. And as governance practitioners and as board members, how do we manage this outsourced accountability? How do we ensure that as board members, you can explain what data is being used, what outputs are being made by that, what changes to the AI model have been made, who is responsible when the harm comes? What have we put in place, to protect our company, our customers, and our immediate stakeholders? So I'd say that's really, for me, is what I would say is the, biggest challenge for governance practitioners, or what, you may call like the blind spots in that space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bankole. I mean, you've put in a lot, and it's important, like you said, AI is being adopted with the speed of light, and it might be a case of regulations playing catch up. So it's important that we're looking at how do we regulate the outcomes, both big and small, to help shape what we need to put or pay attention to. Thank you so much. I would come back again to Ayotola. What do you think? Would you think we should wait for regulation before embedding AI governance frameworks internally, where these regulations do not exist?
I think I mentioned it earlier. I wouldn't wait for regulation. I mean, there is voluntary regulation where you, together with maybe your industry bodies, get together and decide that, okay, you are going to put something in place. I think we have to be ahead of the curve. I don't believe that we should wait for the regulators to be on board. We do know, for instance, as an organization, what the key risks are. And with risk management, you can't wait for, when you're managing risk, you can't wait for the regulator to let you know that, give you a tick and say, oh, go ahead and do this. You have to sometimes, because this is what is in your best interests and the best interest of your stakeholders, be ahead of the curve many times. And so certainly when it comes to AI governance, it's something that we need to move ahead with, regardless of whether the required governance frameworks are there or not. So yes, I believe we shouldn't wait. I believe, though, that this is where an organization like ICSAN comes in. Because somebody may have to drive that outside of the company or outside of individual companies. Organizations like ICSAN, organizations like industry bodies can actually start something that we all align with and come together to work on.
All right, thank you very much. Indeed, organizations like ICSAN does have an important role to play. So, and it's good to see that we have our president and a lot of council members. That's a charge, to us to take the lead. Celine, from your own perspective, would you think that companies should wait for regulation or they should proactively self-regulate?
Thank you, Joyce, for that question. I think Mr. Falade has actually highlighted a lot, and it's very clear that Nigeria is a high-growth digital economy, and as a digital economy that is positioned in an emerging market, we cannot afford to follow crisis-driven governance because, as we all know, regulation always usually is a reaction to crisis. So we shouldn't wait till there is an AI crisis and then we're running to have regulation, and then we're already burdened with the crisis that AI would have left on our board. So it's important that we actually use this inflection point where we are a digital economy driving AI adoption. We could actually use it to start thinking about how organizations can self-regulate. And that way we position ourselves as a country as Africa's responsible AI governance leader. Because at the end of the day, it means we would now be setting up frameworks that other countries would want to adopt because we have gotten it right by taking the lead as institutions, as boards, as governance professionals to advise about towards self-regulation. And probably you'll be wondering, what would self-regulation look like in practice? What would it look like proactively? What we can start to do is, first, as organizations and governance professionals, it's very important for us to have an idea and really map out within an organizational structure, where is AI currently being used across the organization? because some of us don't actually have visibility on what that looks like. We have to first have documents, processes that show us where AI is being used across organizations. We also have to start classifying those AI use according to risk levels, because you know that several kinds of AI have different risk exposures. So we need to have that risk classification. And I clearly remember that Mr. Yotola had alluded to the fact that, yes, these conversations are being had at board, but we are not looking at it from a risk, enterprise risk management perspective. So we need to start looking at it from that perspective as well. And then we should have clear accountability systems. So if there's an AI system in place, is there a human in the loop framework, as Mr. Sonny Ruche had highlighted? We have to ensure that there is a human at the end of the AI system. Shouldn't be 100% automated. There has to be a human in the loop who cross-checks to ensure that this AI system is not biased, or if there are areas where we need to highlight or maybe retrain the system to ensure that the biases are not too apparent. Automation of AI processes in our organization shouldn't be 100%. There has to be a human in the loop framework set up. And surely we should train our boards, train our company secretariats, document everything, because the future of AI governance is that we would have to also have documentation trails that show where we're using AI, why the AI has made certain decisions. So if we don't have documentation that backs up why certain AI systems make certain decisions, it will be hard for us to actually track where things went wrong. So that's what those are the little things we can start to do a bit of self-regulation in that self-regulation spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, regulation may lag, but responsibility cannot. So
yes,
we need to be very, very careful and intentional. Lastly, Bankole, do you think governance professionals are ready to drive credible self-regulation?
So I would say we're capable. The readiness, on the other hand, is uneven. And again, for it to be effective, there has to be credibility, and we have to have processes in place to measure, the progress. How do we enforce it? We have to also make sure that it's enforceable and it's transparent. But yes, we are capable. Governance professionals have been in the space of self-regulation for several decades now. So I think definitely we're capable, and we can build something. We've got the strengths in building frameworks, in translating regulation into operational controls. We've also been good at driving culture and ethics all the way from board down to management to staff. So yes, we are capable, but we will need to definitely do a lot to make sure that the readiness is even. So technical literacy, I'm not saying here now that we should go and start learning how to code, but learn enough to be able to challenge the data sources and outcomes that, and what AI says to, to us as practitioners, or what we see, and be in a position to provide independence, assurance as well, and consequence, which is very important for credibility of any self-regulatory framework. There must be consequences. We need to be able to hold ourselves accountable as governance practitioners, and hold people. If we, for example, came up with a governance code around AI now, we need to ensure members can commit to the code. And how do we sanction and hold people accountable? How do we document infractions so that we use it as a learning point? Not necessarily because you want to be punitive or punish people, but how do you document so that you use it as a learning point to make sure that we fine-tune and perfect that code, and also for remediation purposes as well. So yes, would be my answer. And for it to be effective, that self-regulation has to end trust, and there must be clear evidence that it is working. So it's not just a slogan. We shouldn't just come up with a new code and it's a slogan and we all go by it, but we need to be sure that, look, it's working well, it's effective, and there's evidence to show that it's working well. So yes, we can, and I think we should lead self-regulation, with strong rules, accountability, like I said, independent assurance, enforceability, and all of that rolled in together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bankole. I mean, like you said, we are capable but uneven. So the capabilities are there. How do we activate, those skills, the experiences, and bring them to bear when it comes to governance of AI? And I believe you've thrown a challenge to the institute as to start thinking about coming up with a code for governing AI usage, and that I believe would be very useful and provide needed guidance within the space, especially for us who are governance practitioners. So, in wrapping up, I would have one final question, and we'll kick off with Ayatola. In 5 years, what will a governance failure look like in the age of AI?
In 5 years, what would the governance failure look like? I think a governance failure would be that what could have been avoided by being proactive and putting in place these governance parameters was not done. That we all rushed to embrace AI without stopping to put in place the very things that we're talking about that we realized we need to do today, that we don't put those things in place. Yeah, I mean, because I think we've got enough warning, enough notice. We know what the things that could possibly go wrong are. And our inability to, first of all, internally look at our organizations and see where we are, do the risk assessments and see where we are maybe exposed, ensure that we escalate these things to our boards, ensure that the board in turn puts in place the right measures in our enterprise risk management framework, that actually the enterprise risk management framework has AI risk embedded in it. And we're somehow protected. We can't plan for what we don't know, right? We try to through risk management, but many times there are the black swan events that will take place, and with a black box, there are many things that could go wrong, but there's certain things that are within our control. So I think the inability to act would be, for me, the tragedy in 5 years' time. The inability to ensure that we have in place these risks embedded in our enterprise risk management framework. That would be the shame.
Yeah, thank you. It really would be. So let's not wait until there's a failure before we act. Action, action, action. Bankole, same question.
So,
yeah.
So for me, it won't be machines taking over. It will be companies, organizations that give up understanding their own decisions. And I'll try and explain that briefly. So one, you start to rely on decisions that no one in the organization can complain. Two, your customers are the ones that now start discovering failures, not internally, because you've kind of outsourced completely responsibility to AI. Your vendors control your risk posture more than you do, because we're all using third-party vendors, third-party AI tools and suits. And then the big parts, which is usually the shocker, is when all of a sudden regulators or regulations become a shock, because what you are now getting are the big fines and penalties that come with, that responsibility that you've completely outsourced. And then you start to treat AI culturally as magic, not really a machinery, because everyone is now using AI in the company. I think we already mentioned some of the risks of, having staff using AI to make all sorts of decisions, etc., without any guide rail. That's what AI governance failure will look like in 5 years. It's a company that has given up its understanding and responsibilities of decisions that AI has made for them. So it's not the machines taking over now. It's us as humans and governance practitioners refusing to own our own responsibility of, ensuring that governance is done properly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, we shouldn't outsource our responsibility to AI. It's important that organizations act now to embed the necessary safeguards, transparency, and accountability into their systems. Thanks, Bankole. And finally, Celine.
This is a very wonderful question. And 5 years from now should be 2031. Yes, I know. My co-discussants have actually highlighted a lot, but I would summarize most of what they've said by highlighting the fact that the governance failures of the future wouldn't be, why did the AI fail? The questions would be more or less, why did the board allow an ungoverned AI to run the business? That's what the questions would be. So it would no longer be a question of why the technology fail, but what was the organization doing to ensure that the AI systems running its operations is purely governed. So it's so important that we have these systems to ensure that there is accountability. And I mean, that is good news for governance professionals because accountability, risk management are things that are pretty much within our purview. Just for us to now start to upskill and then clearly understand the basics as it relates to AI adoption and AI governance. We have to ensure that there is clear accountability, ensure that AI system development have clear risk-based approvals, and then there's proper documentation. And these are things that we already do as governance professionals. The only thing we now need to do is upskill that governance to the AI domain. So yes, there would be risks that attach to AI in the next 5 years, but we are very well equipped to be able to manage those risks or even prevent their occurrences. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our fantastic and very knowledgeable discussants. Colleagues and guests on the call, what we have heard this morning, I believe, is very clear. AI does not remove the need for governance. It makes good governance indispensable, and we cannot afford to wait for regulation before governing AI. We must drive responsible oversight, and this would I believe would begin at boardroom level with institutions, like we've heard, embedding the various risk management, ethical standards, and accountability frameworks ahead of any firm regulatory mandate. So the future of governance is not digital, it's human informed, and I believe courageous. Taking action is the key thing. And in the course of conversations, a lot of challenges have been thrown to us as professionals and an institute to take action. So thank you very much to our discussants. And the floor is open for any questions before we wrap up. Any questions, and the questions could be to any of the discussants or to our keynote speaker, Mr. Irushe. Please, if you want to speak, you can raise up your hand and unmute yourself, or you could also type your comment or questions in the chat box and we'll pick it up from there. Yeah. Any hands? Okay, if I can't see any, so perhaps
there is one hand.
Okay, please go on. Omaka.
Yes, thank you for the privilege, and thanks for organizing this program. So thanks for the presenters. My question will be looking at the inequality that AI is going to create in the system, both regional imbalance in AI as well as even in the organization. How can organizations and governance practitioners manage the inequality that AI is going to create in the system, as well as the impact, whether it's ESG impact or security and misinformation that AI is going to create? How can organizations manage it and remain competitive and compliant? Any of the presenters can handle it, please.
Hello,
right,
can I take that?
Yes, please.
Joyce? Well, you are talking about the inequality. Inequality starts from a government of any country to smell the coffee, like the saying goes, to know that AI would define the fourth industrial revolution and development of any apart from Saudi Arabia, are tech and AI. Okay, data is the new oil. Data is the new. Nigerians should be asking politicians. I've written a lot about AI in good governance, AI in election, in coming corruption. Google Soniroche, you see my articles there. So until every country, like in Africa, for instance, we are not top, though we are supposed to be in terms of our resources. South Africa ranks ahead of us. Mauritius ranks ahead of us. Kenya ranks ahead of us. So that gap can only be shortened by responsible government. I am part of the committee that put together the Nigerian AI strategy together in 2024. I flew from Oxford to sit down to join other people to co-create. Have those been implemented? Have the private sector really understood the consequences of not adopting AI? These are the questions. But to cap it up from a religious point of view, Jesus said the poor always be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hiroshi. We also have Ibrahim Suleiman. Please take your question. Okay, if Ibrahim is not ready, we can move on to Emmanuel Ugu.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the privilege. My name is Emmanuel. I want to appreciate Eastern for this wonderful meeting and the guest speakers for their beautiful presentation. So my question goes this way. We know AI is important for all business and organization, but we've seen organizations who bring in AI into the system and it caused a lot of harm instead of good. Now, I'll cite an example. The Corporate Affairs Commission, that's CSC in Nigeria, I think late last year / early this year, they introduced AI into the system in terms of approving registration. And we begin to figure out that the AI starts approving names that are not necessarily would have been approved by a human. For example, Boko Haram Limited. For example, Sambisa Forest Organization. You know, this AI cannot differentiate some of these factors, and there's need for a human loophole to monitor the AI. But the whole question is, how does an organization know that this is the right time for we to bring in AI into our system? Because it's not just all about, oh, AI is good, but when should an organization know that, okay, we are ready to bring in AI, not to bring in AI, and we now start experiencing errors and mistakes, then we start correcting it. Before you know, you've lost a lot of customers or clients, and people have lost trust in that organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would any of our panelists or keynote want to take on that?
Sorry,
question?
I don't know when you joined. The gentleman who asked the question, if you had joined while I was speaking, you must have heard me talk about two things. Before you implement AI, you must first talk to the leadership of the organization. You must have the capacity in terms of funding and human capacity that understands AI. When I talked about regulating AI, it's all part of it. Then I also talked about human in the loop. Of course, there's data bias, which I mentioned, because most of the data are kept outside of Africa. So it is imperative that we start to develop our data ourselves. So in a nutshell, all I'm saying is before the CAC or any organization, law firm, bank, embark on AI, they must first conduct the 4C framework developed in Oxford University on AI readiness and the recommendation that we made in UNESCO all over the world. 173 countries signed for it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ibrahim Suleiman, please go on with your question.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. First of all, I want to appreciate the presenters that we have learned a lot on this, and this will assist and hello.
We can hear you.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to appreciate all the presenters, and my question is this: considering the rapid integration of this artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies into organizational systems, how can governance practitioners electively balance innovation and operational efficiency with ethical responsibility, risk management, and account frameworks? Like now, as in some banks, in banking sectors, there are challenges that some of the staff are facing, that in terms of handling customers. So what artificial intelligence in future that will make this to be possible so that to be serving customers without much stress? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Irochi, are you taking that up?
Can I let other people participate too? I don't want to dominate it.
Or any of our discussants willing to respond to that question?
Didn't hear the question very well, actually. I don't know if you heard.
Ibrahim, can you just recap? I hear he was asking about how governance practitioners can be more supportive, I think, if I heard correctly.
Of course.
Can you just take your question again and just go straight to the point?
Okay, so considering the rapid integration of artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies, are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Into organizational systems. So, effectively balancing and innovation operation efficiency with ethical responsibility, risk management, and accountability frameworks. So, how can it be worked in a banking sector? Hello?
I think we've lost you a bit.
Hello?
Yeah, go on now, because we lost you for a bit.
Okay. I say that as we discuss on this corporate governance, are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Or maybe you can type your question in the chat box so that we get it clearly.
Okay, no problem. Let me do it.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Ade Folahon, please take your question.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Oh, it's afternoon now.
Okay, good afternoon. Yeah, my question is directed at Mr. Sonny Roche. During his presentation, he actually talked about a kind of a guideline or framework at University of Oxford University. I would want him to please talk more about that so that we can take it down so that we know what to look for in that regard. Then further to that, he talked about an acronym which he called LLM. He didn't really tell us what LLM stands for. So if we could please elaborate on that as well so that it can enhance our knowledge. Thank you.
Mr. Eroche says his presentation is the beginning. We should go and do further research.
No, don't put words in my mouth for the
Please
guy
go
to
on.
go through time to listen to us. I don't know the point. I was also a teacher in the military in NDA, so we know students who listen and all those who came late. I had told you the 4 C's were compliance. That was a joke. Compliance, culture, capability, and constituents. The constituents is the board of any company. You have to get their buy-in, let them understand first and foremost. Then you cascade it down to executive management, then to the staff, to assure staff that, listen, AI will complement your job. Some of you that do repetitive jobs, when I was in banking in the 70s and 80s, we had secretaries. Nobody uses secretaries anymore. You had telephone operators. Nobody needs telephone operators anymore. Some jobs, repetitive jobs, should be lost. So you convince the staff that if you go and repackage yourself and become AI ready, then you can get retained in the job or pivot to another role. I talked about the culture. I talked about the 4 C's framework, right? Then your other question was LLM stands for large language models, which is what ChatGPT is, just one of them. You have Grok, you have Cloud, you have Gemini, you have Midjourney, you have all kinds of AI tools that fall under 2 categories of LLMs, large language models. One are what you call the foundational large language models. The foundational language model means you have ChatGPT 2, when it started in 2018. Then you went to 3.0. Now the PhD level is about ChatGPT 5. Same also with Cloud. Cloud also had different categories of foundational. Then after the foundational one that lays the foundation for the LLM, you now have what they call the conversational. That is when you talk about, you interact with generative AI. Help me write this, help me do this, help me do that. The kind of job you want the consultant to do for you, an accountant. You prompt it, what we call prompt engineering. So that is the conversational part of the LLM. But the foundation on which it is built, the architecture, is called the foundational large language models.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eroche. I see more hands. Muyiwa. Mr. Eroche has been gracious to put his contact details on the chat box for those asking.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joyce. Through the president, Ixon, and other council members, fellow participants, and most importantly, the panelists. I think there is nothing to say. Mine won't be a question. It would just be a brief contribution, if that's okay. Very importantly is the fact that I mean, I don't have or entertain any fear regarding whether we will get this right. We have more than enough experienced practitioners, both within the sphere of governance and also as it concerns this subject matter itself on AI. So in terms of policies internally within our organizations, in terms of how it plays out, whether we are self-regulating, and what the industry or what regulators will do, that would work perfectly fine. What I want to put out here And it's for, well, I would say more particularly the younger generation. I'm not too old as well, but I mean, just to say that for some of us today, we sit in rooms with people, and before they can even engage in a meaningful conversation over a long meeting, they're going to ask ChatGPT. And that brings me to two examples that I would share. And I would round up with what my notes are. So a certain gentleman had expected to take an interview as a company secretary in the UK. And it was a virtual interview. He got into that interview looking to see someone on the other side, but it was AI. But the person was conversing normally. Can you tell me your name and all that? But one very important thing before they went ahead was that the AI tool said to this interviewee that, can you please switch off or close all the windows on your computer? And for about a couple of minutes, of course, what happened was that the gentleman went blank for a couple of minutes before he got himself back. Closely related to this, I was in a room with a client very recently, I think about last week. And he said, look, I have this problem. And the problem was so, so, and so. And I gave some things that I considered was a panacea to what he was saying. And he said, oh, look, let me read to you what I asked AI, ChatGPT, and this is what he said. And he read it and he said, oh, it's not any different from what you said, but that's this and this other thing that you mentioned. So what is the summary of these two examples? Is the fact that beyond whatever it is that AI can support in doing, as either younger practitioners or as older practitioners, this is when our libraries should be getting fuller, right? This is where we need to create those 30 minutes every other hour, every other day, to increase knowledge that can bring about an ex-tempo delivery, if you get what I mean. And so the trainings that I would be looking through, that ICSAN will be churning out as offsets from these engagements, will be such that it would address softer issues, because we shouldn't worry ourselves too much, on whether we'll get it right in terms of policy frameworks and all of that. But there are other softer issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's not get ourselves in a position that we rely on ChatGPT for all conversations. Yeah. Thanks.
Can I react?
Yeah, go on.
The world is revolving. Before, geographers said the planet was flat. When more information came, they realized that the Earth was spherical. Right? I have young children. I'm not young at all. I'm heading towards the 7th floor of my life. My kids are all computer proficient. When we went to school, in primary school, in the early 60s, we had what we call mental arithmetic. 2 times 1 are 2. And who needs that? Yorubas say, there's a saying in Yoruba, Iya, Ushomyobe, that suffering is not better soup. If AI has reduced things for you, that is the new reality. Our grandchildren will not know life the way it is today. They are going to be AI natives. All they will know is AI, press a button. Whether you like it or not, that is the reality, and that's the future of work, to be honest with you. So we've had this debate all over the world. I have attended every AI conference apart from the one going on in India today. That's because I'm launching my company next week. So let us get it right that this has come to stay, and it's going to be multiple of what we are seeing today. In China, they are thinking of constructing roads in the air where you have flying cars, okay? Where you have driverless cars. Right now, you have cargo planes that are pilotless. So to get to a point where you enter a plane, the pilots are all robotics. You will get scared initially. The air hostesses will all be robots that be efficient and quick. So that is where the world is going to. Fortunately or unfortunately, that is where to be. We are not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about Joyce, your grandchildren. What world would they live in? It's going to be an AI world.
Well, that's deep and reflective. Yeah, we need to just accept the reality because I mean, there's no going back as it is, and we're not ready to die, so we're going to adapt and evolve.
Exactly, AI or die.
Yeah. I want to quickly just acknowledge a couple of council members that have been with us, and thank you for joining. Mr. Sebastian Essien, who is the Rivers State Chapter Chairman. We also do have Marilyn Eze, FCIS, who is also a council member. So the day is fast spent, and it's always said that for everything that has a beginning, there is an end, and we are gradually winding down to the end of what I believe has been a very educating and enlightening conversation. I believe I'm speaking for everyone. So to wrap up, I would want to hand over quickly to Miss Akudeze, who would anchor the presentation of plaques. Over to you. Is she on the call?
She is.
Good
Okay,
afternoon,
Ibrahim has
everyone.
finally typed his question. Can Mr. Iroche or any of the panelists please feel free to respond in the chat to his question? Thank you. Back to you, Akudeze.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your moderation. Thank you for anchoring this program. We'd like to go on to the next item, but I would like to recognize some of one of our past presidents on this meeting, Mr. Olatunde Busari, SANFCIS. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And also Mr. Dele Togunde, FCIS, a council member and chairman of Education Committee. So we'll go straight to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation of the plaques. So we'd like to call on our president and chairman of council to present the plaque to the keynote speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can still hear me too.
Very well.
Okay, thank you very much. This has been a very, very enlightening session, and well done, Joyce. Excellent moderation. Thank you for connecting all the dots throughout the program and ensuring that everyone stayed engaged. In fact, at a point, we had over 320 participants. And I must say that this has been a very, very fulfilling session. So to Mr. Sonny Iroche, our keynote speaker, at the beginning when I was giving my welcome speech, I did indicate that Mr. Roche is family, essentially. And when he indicated that he would accept this to do the honor today, I was really delighted because there are very few people who can speak on the subject from a point of experience, point of continuous learning, which is what ICSAN is all about. And Mr. Roche has done justice to his to this webinar today. Thank you for sharing your insights. Thank you for sharing your experience. And so on behalf of the Governing Council of ICSAN, I present to you virtually this plaque, thanking you for delivering such an insightful and thought-provoking keynote address. The questions, the comments during this session also demonstrate how engaged everyone has been throughout this session. So thank you very much, Mr. Roche. We look forward to another opportunity to invite you, and we know you will come. And then I must also mention that there's a fast track to membership of ICSAN. And I am sure you already qualify. So we would like you, when it is time, to also consider joining the Institute, as more governance practitioners will benefit from your wealth of knowledge. Thank you once again. Back to you, Akudazie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if you have me to join, do I have a choice?
I'm glad to hear that. We will be contacting you to begin that process. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, Madam President. Would like to recognize also the Mrs. Abiola Lassen, the FCIS Council Member, Chair, Publicity Committee, and Mrs. Marinine, the FCIS Council Member, Chair, Law Reform Committee. Thank you for joining us. We would like to go to the next presentation by the Vice President, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Confirm you can hear me. Deputy Registrar?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been an interesting and insightful session. I'm presenting this plaque to the one I call the Ayatollah Jagan. I put THE there because there are no two persons, of that. As usual, the presentation was as phenomenal as expected, and as usual, I took note of the risk management dimensions that you brought into the conversation. By the way, she's also the current and reigning, if you may call it, Chartered Secretary of the Year. Of course, you gave a Chartered Secretary of the Year presentation. So on behalf of the Governing Council, ably led by Madam President, Mrs. Ito Bana, would like to present this plaque. As a on the practitioners
be careful of those who acquire one week training and call themselves AI experts. With profound respect, sir, I think you're on your own. Because with what I learned today, if you are a part of, I can confidently say that I'm an AI expert. And this Mrs. Selin Okoroma Vincent was a part of it. We could see how she demonstrated expertise in governance in relation to AI. It didn't come as a surprise because Mrs. Okoroma worked with me in in one committee. I think it's a membership committee, and we know her stuff. So thank you today, Ms. Okoroma Okoroma Vincent, for adding to the body of knowledge. And on behalf of the President and Chairman of Council, Mrs. Uko Opana, and the Governance Practitioners Committee that has put this together, I'm delighted to present this plaque to you as a discussant today, Wednesday, 18th of February, 2026. Thank you for the part of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Tony.
Thank you very much, sir. For the next presentation, we'd like to call on Mr. Godstime Iwenekai to make the next presentation.
Thank you very much. To make presentation to Mr. Bankole Falade, and I want to say on behalf of the President and Chair of Council of the Institute of Secretary of Nigeria, on behalf of the Governance Committee of the Institute, for your insight and the expertise you bring up to the discussion today, and therefore present, and thank you for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much to the Governing Council and members of the Institute for the privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I'd like to call on the chairman of the Governance Practitioners Committee, Dr. Tony Okuma, FCIS, for the next presentation.
There's no saying the fact that excellently well in moderating this event. You are an asset to the committee, I must confess. You have done so well, and we are proud of you. Thank you for the insights we got from you today. Thank you for moderating the affairs so efficiently and effectively. On behalf of the President and Chairman of Council and the committee that you belong to, the Governance Practitioners Committee, we want to appreciate you for this very good job that you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And it's been a pleasure being in the committee. I wouldn't have been expecting a plaque from a committee that I'm a member of. Well, thanks for the opportunity. So grateful. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, we call on the Vice President, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS, for the vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to be back. Good afternoon once again, participants. A lot has been said today. A lot has been learned, and of course, learning is a continuum. But some of the things that stand out for me, and then of course that should resonate to all of us as governance practitioners, is the fact that despite the involvement of AI, we are not absolved of accountability. We are not absolved, of responsibility. And I like the fact that Dr. Weche alluded to the fact that we've been custodians, of ethics, even before the emergence of AI and all the discussions around self-regulation, and then the advice to ICSAN to self-regulate and then pass this forward to regulators of AI and all of that. I also note the fact that it's said that to be ethics, before efficiency, and that compliance, without understanding AI, will lead to failure. So we keep, enhancing our understanding, of AI, and of course, lastly for me, the fact that governance before efficiency, and I think the keynote speaker and a lot of discussans as well alluded to that. By the way, to CC, there is a sectoral group, okay, that handles issues like this in the institute. That's the digital economy sectoral group. One of the speakers, I think, the Bankole, is a member of that sectoral group. I think I saw the chairman earlier, Mr. Sheya Abiodun, and then the vice chair of that sectoral group, Mrs. Fumi Willoughby. So just for your information and then for the information of everybody listening, ICSAN does have, a digital economy sectoral group. Now, having said that, my first point of call would be to appreciate every participant. You stayed till the end. We had an impressive number of participants. Thank you to you, our very loyal members, for your support always. You are the stars of today. And I also discovered quite a number of non-members. Permit me to seize the opportunity to say to you that you're invited to join us across our various membership entry platforms. We have the regular examination platform. We have the fast track members. Do well to reach out to the secretariat, and then you will be assessed so as to know which of the membership routes you qualify for. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for staying with us till the end, and then to our members as well, a very big thank you to you. Of course, my next point of call will be to appreciate our resource person, the keynote speaker, very erudite and very practical. Thank you very much. You did a good job. Ms. Ayatola Jagun, the Chartered Secretary of the Year, thank you very much. Phenomenal performance. To CC, Mrs. Selin Okoroma Vincent, thank you, as usual. Good delivery. Mr. Falade, you did a good job as well. Thank you for giving a very good account. All of you, 3 worthy ambassadors of ICSAN. Thank you very much. And then, of course, as has been said, to our moderator, Mrs. Joyce Akpata, you did a very good job as well. You connected all the dots very well, like the president said. So big thank you to you. To the committee that put this together, ably led by Dr. Tony Okoma, kudos to you. Well done. To whom much is given, much is expected, and then to whom who delivers much more work, will be given, to expect more work. But for this, big thank you to you. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to give honor to whom honor is due. I'd just like to even though they've been recognized, a lot of our council members who have been online. Because I'll start with the chairman of council, Mrs. Uto Bana. You've seen her face, you've heard her voice a lot today. We marked and all of that, and then presentation of mark. I acknowledge your presence. Thank you, Madam President. And of course, to the immediate past president, Mrs. Fumi Ekundaro, FCIS, you were also online. Thank you, Madam. And then, of course, our past president presence to our learned Mr. Tunde Busawi, SAN, FCIS. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Bode Ayeku, FCIS, always joining. Thank you so much. And then we'll usually participate and stay till the end. Thank you so very much. Some of our council members as well, other council members are present. Mrs. Marilyn Eze, FCIS, I saw that you joined quite early. I note your presence. Mr. Oluseyi Abiodun, FCIS, quite early as well. Mrs. Benedicta Shadawi, FCIS, I note your presence. Alaji Tijani Abibu, Kaduna chapter, you also joined quite very early. I note your presence and I appreciate you. And then, of course, Dr. Tony Okoma, haven't recognized you as a member of the committee. You're still a council member, though. I note your presence and I recognize you. Mr. Dele Togunde, FCIS, I note your presence as well. And then Mrs. Nkechi Onyesa, I hope you're still on the call. You also joined quite early. I note your presence. And then our council member from Abuja, Elder Babatunde Peleva, FCIS, I note your presence as well. And of course, Mrs. Abiola Lasende joined us a few minutes ago. And, to everybody, to the secretariat, ably led by Ms. Akudaze Ngozi Ndugu. Well done. Good job to you, to the IT team, and then all other members of the secretariat. Thank you. Kudos to all of you. Once again, thanks to everybody. I wish everybody a wonderful day. And then just before I leave as well, permit me to also say congratulations once again to all ICSAN members. I'm sure you are aware that ICSAN is 60, and I'm privileged to be chairing that committee. Our lineup of activities, you'll be seeing them on the platforms. I look forward to your support as you have done this afternoon. And then, of course, don't forget to constantly give your support to the building project. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Next, we'd like all participants to put on their cameras for a group photograph, so we can do that now.
Are we done with the photograph?
No, we have about 17 pages, so we are taking them one out.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please follow social media platforms. Thank you.
Nigeria, we